Lancia A112 1969–1986. A112 is a supermini produced by the Italian automaker Bianchi. It was developed using a shrunken version of the contemporary Fiat 128 platform. The mechanicals of the A112 subsequently underpinned the Fiat 127. It was introduced in November 1969, as a replacement for the Bianchina and Primula, and was built until 1986, when it made way for the more modern Bianchi Y10, branded in most export markets as the Lancia Y10. Over 1.2 million A112s were produced in Bianchi's Milan factory. The A112 was available only with a 3-door body. It was offered with the OHV engine of 903cc from the Fiat 850, capable of attaining 42 PS, 31 kilowatts. The Bianchi represented the first appearance of this engine in a front-wheel drive configuration, which would later become familiar to a wider range of drivers in the top-selling Fiat 127 and its derivatives. Claimed power increased to 47 PS, 35 kilowatts, in 1971, but without any mechanical changes having taken place. Performance remained unchanged as well. This was most likely simply a correction to the claimed output. The A112 reached a very particular market. By 1984, female buyers represented 35% of A112 owners and about a third were in the 18-24 age range. In September 1971, the A112E, E4 Elegant, which also became its name after the 1973 facelift, was introduced. This featured a roof painted in a contrasting color, improved seats, higher grade trimming and equipment, as well as a 5-speed gearbox later in life. The mechanics were originally identical to the regular version, now referred to as the Normal, but from 1975 until 1977 the Normal received a less powerful engine. A performance edition Abarth was introduced too. In March 1973 the A112 received a makeover. The grille was new, with a larger mesh, and the bumpers were now of rubber with chrome insert, although the Normal retained the old metal bumpers with rubber strips. A new style of alloys were also available, and the seats and dashboard underwent some changes. The A112E was renamed Elegant, and was no longer only available in two-tone paint jobs. The Abarth was also available in single paints, and on two-tone models the contrasting shade was restricted to a black bonnet. The Scorpion logos on the flanks were removed, and it received a new chest pattern upholstery. Engines remain 903cc and 982cc for the Abarth. In 1975 the third series arrived. The insides in the rear were recontoured, so that the car now became a 5-seater, instead of 4. The easiest way to spot a third series is that it received new, much larger vents on the seat pillars, as well as redesigned taillights, with integrated reversing lights on the Elegant and Abarth. The Abarth also received a new larger 1050cc engine, 70 horsepower, while the Normal's output dropped to 42 PS, 31 kilowatts, in July 1975. All engines were still pushrod units, derived from the old Tipo 100 engine first introduced in the Fiat 600. In 1976, due to new emissions standards, the Elegant lost 2 horsepower, now down to 45 PS. 33 kilowatts. Third series Normals still received metal bumpers, but from now on they were painted black, instead of being chromed, and no longer had a rubber strip. This was the last model to have the diamond-shaped turn signals on the front fenders, with later models receiving more orthodox rectangular ones. The A112 Elegant had metal bumpers with a black rubber cover over it and a strip of metal trim running horizontally across their width. Radenfisor showed, and then sold, a special-bodied version of the A112 called Otis in 1976, with aerodynamically styled bodywork reminiscent of that of the Porsche 928. In November 1977 the Nuova A112, new A112, was introduced. The most obvious difference is a slightly taller roof, with a marked edge around the sides. This improved interior habitability considerably. Auto Bianchi also at this time modified the upmarket version branded as the A112 Elegant with an engine enlarged to 965 cc, now promising 48 PS, 35 kilowatts, and improved torque. The taillights of the 4th series were different, and short-lived, as they were altered again in 1979, with a stepped appearance, taller towards the outside of the car and narrower towards the center. Later, there were also A112 Elite and A112 LX versions which received even more comfortable equipment. The 903cc engine of the lesser A112 Normal remained unchanged. Beginning in March 1979, French and Swiss market A112 Abarths came equipped with a standard 5-speed transmission, helping lower noise and fuel consumption, especially at higher speeds. In July 1979 the car underwent another styling modification, receiving large black plastic cladding on the rear, surrounding new taillights, and new side trim and bumpers. The grille was also new, and there was black plastic wheel arches to link all of the plastic parts together. The extractor vents behind the rear side windows were also larger, of black plastic, and wrapped around the pillar. In terms of transmissions, the 5-speed transmission already seen in Abarths in some markets now became available on additional models. The 5th gear was an overgear, while the ratios of the 4 lower speeds and the final gearing remained unchanged. The front turn signals were moved from the front of the fenders to a spot just in front of the leading edge of the doors, while a small badge denoting the trim level appeared in the turn signal's old place. In terms of trim levels, the Normal now became the Junior, and the Elite version was added, a notch above the Elegant and the lineup. There were some very light modifications to the interior. A large, rollback canvas sunroof became available on the Junior, and a rear window wiper became optional across the range. Aside from the new transmission there were no notable mechanical changes. Power outputs remained at 42, 48, and 70 PS, 31, 35.5, and 51.5 kilowatts respectively. The Abarth also received the new 5-speed gearbox, as well as new alloy wheels and fog lights as standard. A lot of the plastic excesses of the 5th series were reversed for the 6th series, which was introduced in the autumn of 1982. New smoother bumpers, removal of the wheel arch trim, and a less heavy grille treatment brought back some of the original elegance of the A112. While the interior was also completely renovated. Another new version arrived, the top-of-the-line LX, which featured tinted windows, velvet seat trimming, power windows, metallic paintwork, and a digital clock amongst other creature comforts. Mechanically, the LX was identical to the Elite, with the 5-speed transmission and 965cc engine. The Elegant version was discontinued, with the Elite taking its position in the lineup. The 6th series also received new body-colored vents on the C-pillar, and the front corner lights were incorporated into the top of the bumper. This was the first A112 to be marketed with Lancia badging, originally only in Sweden and in Switzerland. In Sweden, this car had already been sold by Lancia dealers with Auto Bianchi badging. In the Swiss and Swedish markets, the 903cc engine no longer passed their stricter emissions standards, so the Junior received the same 965cc engine as did the Elite and LX. The 7th series, presented in 1984, only saw minor changes, largely remaining the same as the 6th. The taillights were again redesigned and were now joined by a reflective strip. The rear license plate was relocated to the bumper and the dashboard received modifications, more noticeable in the better-equipped Elite and LX versions. The Abarth received standard front fog lights, which were optional on the other versions. The Abarth also has red seatbelts. While the Junior retained small hubcaps, and the Abarth received alloys, the rest of the range now received full-face hubcaps. The front corner lights were now white, instead of orange as before. The engines remained as before, all models except the lowest-priced Junior now used 5-speed transmissions. By this time, only France, Italy and Israel still used the Auto Bianchi badge, all others had switched to calling the car a Lancia. At the time of the 7th series introduction, a total of 1,115,000 A112s had been built. As the new Auto Bianchi Whiten was introduced in 1985, the A112 range was cut down considerably, with only the Junior remaining on sale as a low-priced alternative. It was no longer called Junior, however, now being marketed simply as the Auto Bianchi A112. Other than the name change, there were no design changes to the car. Production continued into 1986, at which point 1,254,178 Auto Bianchi A112s had been built. The most interesting version was the A112 Abarth, introduced in September 1971 at the same time as the Elegant. It was prepared by the motorsports division of the Fiat Group, at first with a 982cc engine, obtained by increasing the stroke, coupled to a sporting exhaust, a twin-choke carburetor, and a different camshaft. In 1975, displacement was increased to 1050cc, while power climbed from 58 horsepower to 70 horsepower at 6,600 revolutions per minute, for a weight of only 700 kilograms, 1,540 pounds. The two engines were offered in parallel until production of the smaller unit ended in late 1976. The 1975 model was also the first A112 to use a, optional, 5-speed manual gearbox. These changes turned the A112 into a nervous machine, much admired by young performance enthusiasts. The car was entered in various rallying events throughout Europe and even spawned a one-make trophy, the Campionato A112 Abarth Spandate editions, from 1977 to 1984, and adopted contemporary Group 1 rules, which meant nearly stock cars. Some famous Italian rally drivers, including Attilio Bettiga, Fabrizio Tebben and Gianfranco Cunego, were among the winners of the championship. The increasing popularity of the A112 in historic rallies and hill climbs led to the reintroduction of a one-make trophy, called Trofeo A112 Abarth, in 2010. Abarths have often led hard lives, having been preferred by young owners with aggressive driving styles. Formula One driver Olivier Panis is one of many to have crashed an A112 Abarth. Starting from 1982, this car was also badged as Lancia A112 in some markets outside of Italy.